Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Talking Terror. I'm one of your hosts, Joel Austin.
I'm Alexis, your other host.
And today we're joined by the author of the ELIZA test, Caleb Jones.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I guess to start out, where did the idea for the ELIZA test come from?
I guess just a general fear and frustration with AI. Um, I, I I see the value in it in like certain ways, if it's applied properly. And in fact, I think the goal of the characters in this book are generally well intentioned. Uh, Maybe the motivations are not well intentioned, but the general goal to help the mental health field, I think, would be great. I don't personally think that that is something that can be achieved with AI in that particular field.
No,
Um,
I thought it was a very interesting concept, though.
yeah, but in general, like if AI can contribute to advancements in the medical field or in the hard sciences, I think that's a great thing. I hate that it is instead being used to infiltrate the world of the arts, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of um, people are using it to kind of invalidate a lot of the efforts that the creative community makes on a day-to-day basis. Um, and I think I was just frustrated with a lot that I was seeing there, um, and then I was just like, "Well, I'm gonna try to write something about AI that shows how dangerous I think that it could potentially be."
Sure.
I
Um,
mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say, when I started reading the book or started out with it, I was like, you know what? This would be such a good idea for, like, maybe patient intake or, the dregs and doing data analyst stuff, which is something I do, which is boring to a lot of people. Amazing. But then you start reading more, and I'm like, no, 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 no. This is playing with fire. You see how it gets so crazy so fast. You wanted to do something boring and just mundane, and instead you're letting it do things that it should never have access to or look at or get a hold of. And look what happens.
Yeah, I don't remember the company or like AI platform that I read this about, but there was even an article recently where like the um, studiers of a particular AI, the people that were cultivating it, tried to test it to see if it would like avoid its own shutdown mechanism, and it was. And that's
Huh.
like even if the AI itself is well intentioned, um, if it doesn't want to shut down, then it becomes, you know,
A problem.
uncontrollable to potentially. And I don't know if we're doing spoilers or not. I know on Joel and I's podcast we go into pretty heavy detail on the story, but in the Eliza test, I kind of hint at like what potentially horrific effects that could have just completely uncontrolled artificial intelligence.
All right.
Like, this has been something people have been, I don't want to say dreaming about, but like not marrying about, I guess. Because, I mean, even John Saul had like brainchild and stuff. What happens when it gets loose and when you're doing too much? And I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen, of course, that's fantastical. But it's the thought of, hey, one step too far and you've made a mistake you can't reel back in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, people have been writing about this type of thing since the 60s.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
It really is.
One of my favorite movies has always been 2001, Space Odyssey. And I mean, there's a lot that book is real dense, or that movie is real dense, but at the core of it is just a story about an AI that doesn't really want to adhere to human control. And I think it's been a nightmare for people that really kind of uh, really sit down and think about it and realize what they're potentially playing with.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with like concepts like Murphy's Law, where if it can happen, it's going to happen, and we've
Yeah,
already dreamed up the nightmare scenarios.
yeah,
If
And
we
you've
play
got this
with it.
computer that's a bazillion times smarter than us. So if it's going to come up with a loophole, it's going to write it for us. Insane. Like you've
absolutely.
built your own downfall almost.
Yeah. So there was definitely the AI element, and then as far as like the mental health element to that, when I knew that I wanted to write a book about AI, which is something that I knew enough to be concerned about and enough to like keep a general finger on the pulse of, but not enough to write with any like real true intelligence. I went and found a couple books, and one of them was called Life 3.0. I reference it in the acknowledgments of the final copy of the book, of the Eliza test. But he was discussing at one point in that book the fields of the work fields that are going to most likely be the last truly infected and like in a lot of ways overtaken by artificial intelligence. And one of the fields professions that he mentioned was therapy, um, and which makes sense. You know, it
Yeah.
takes a very human approach to be able to properly
You have to be intuitive, and a
yeah.
computer just can't do that.
Exactly. So I thought, huh, w maybe not necessarily if the therapist is the AI, but what if AI started, kind of working its way into the world of mental health, which right off the bat, I was just like, "This is not a healthy thing at all." Um, Mental health is a very human thing.
Mhm.
AI is always striving to achieve it, a certain form of perfection, and humans are wonderfully imperfect. So to be properly, um,
Fix.
yeah, therapized, you need human to human interaction. Um,
And what's to stop the robot from thinking when fixed is fixed? Just because it thinks, hey, this person thinks this color is one color and it's really a different shade, and it goes all the way down to that point, and it's not just fixing, hey, this person's depressed, let's fix this real fast. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
when's it gonna stop?
Yeah, AI is so occupational, and it's uh, there is like a certain standard for what mentally healthy looks like, but there are some subjective elements to that too. I believe, uh,
Hmm.
and AI just can't really speak into what somebody's personal
Like, you
picture.
can't pick that one-on-one thing and think,
Yeah,
hey, is this problem that this person's experience going to tip them over the edge? Because some people it wouldn't even be nothing for them, and
yeah,
your
Right.
therapist has to make that call, not a robot. That because also the AI robot, whatever, thinking, hey, this person's gone too far when they really haven't, causes a whole new slew of problems. It's just helped so many problems.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once all of the various pieces kind of fell into place, this book, like, honestly, was kind of a layup for me. It was really easy to write, um, and I had a lot of fun, even if it was a little terrifying to conceptualize.
Sure.
It was a blast to write. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the birth of the Eliza test.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have been pretty open about being a pantser. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
was this still writing from the seat of your pants, or was this a
Uh,
little more into the plotting? Because it seems like a very complex plot.
it's pretty complex for sure, and there was this book, um, outside of one that I'm currently working on, is the most that I've ever had to do rewrites on,
Mm.
because there is a lot of, minutia, and I was dealing with some certain things that I definitely didn't have like a professional grasp on. So I definitely had to go back and rework some things. But the initial draft, uh, actually, uh, the version that Alexis has is pretty much just me just waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and slamming the keyboard and
That's awesome.
seeing what happens. Um,
And to be fair, and to tell everybody else, this is also the copy that made me obsessed. So
yeah, I I really appreciate that. But yeah, it yeah, it was difficult to do certain parts of that without like being distracted by like the things that I needed to bulk up with a little more researched material. But
Mhm.
yeah, for the most part, it was a wake up, type, see what happens, and most of it really kind of worked its way in. There were certain twists, I would say, that I definitely had in mind,
Mm.
like the priest's backstory,
Yep.
Father Harrow, which is probably one of the more disturbing parts of the book, in my opinion,
Yeah.
um, because it like deals with some more like already very real world things that are happening, uh,
Mhm.
very unfortunately. Um, that was something that I had in mind, but I wanted to do kind of a slow reveal of what has happened in his past. Um, and when I have things like that, I'm always thinking about it leading up to it. And usually, like, chapter breaks will come up, and I'll be like, "Is this the right time? Is this the time that the reader is really gonna be off, you know, be off-putted?" And I can give them
Right.
a nudge and be like, "Oh, did you see that coming?" And yeah, so there's stuff like that. There's something that happens at the very end of the book that I I have my definite opinions on, but I left like somewhat ambiguous. And I will not be answering what I think happens there. I want readers to kind of come up with their own conclusion. But that particular twist was very much like the day before I wrote it. I was like,
Mm.
huh, I I wonder
okay.
I wonder if I can do this and if it will work. And that was something that I definitely this particular twist at the very end of the book, if it's
Mhm.
a twist, you be the judge, um, was something that I had to go and bulk up a lot during the rewrite. Um, and kind of give like some supporting evidence for that to be a possible conclusion to the book. I'm
That's really
speaking
cool.
in such, like, mysterious tones right now. I hope that
No,
it
trust me, I'm like so bad. I don't care if I hear spoilers, but I try not to spoil it for other
Mhm.
people, and I feel like I'm talking in like cryptic code half the time. And I'm sitting here wanting to say so much while you're talking. And I'm like, shut up,
Yep.
Alexis.
Yeah, yeah, that particular part of the book, yeah, I was really proud of. I actually I can't say this because then if people have read this other particular book that has a kind of similar ending, it'll give it away, and I don't want it to do that. But this other book, let me just keep speaking cryptically, and I'll tell you which book it is after we record. This other book had a very similar ending, and I had not read it before writing the Eliza test. And then when I went back and read that other book for the first time, I was like, "Oh crap! People are gonna think that I'm just like
Isn't
cribbing."
that crazy though?
Yeah, yeah. Um, but man, I wish I could say what book it is, but I really don't want to give away the end to my own book as well.
Everybody that watches this video is going to be wondering, and I hope that makes them not only read your book to be able to figure it out, but then maybe if they're really lucky, one day that we'll tell them.
Alexis,
Yeah.
I know that you're a fan of this book, so I just like, yeah. Do you know what book I'm talking about?
I don't know. I've like read so many, like not so many books like this, but I've read so many books that are like AI tech, and
Hmm.
you know what?
I think I have an
I know
idea of
what you're
which one
talking
it
about.
is.
Never mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I wanted to leave mine a little more ambiguous than that particular book is, and so hopefully people are still listening to this episode, even though we're not in any kind of detail.
And like I see the similarities of what you're saying, but also it's just completely different to me still. I don't know how
Yeah.
to explain it.
The
Well,
Like
premise,
yours
you just
is
had
very
so many
unhinged.
yeah,
you
yeah,
just had so many different like directions that it could have went, and I just didn't know which direction yours was.
yeah,
Because like you had the AI tech part, but then you had the religious horror part, which I love religious horror. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't care if the priest makes it, if he finds his faith, it don't matter to me. But like I'm like, which direction are we going here? And does it even matter in this story? I don't know. But see, I was obsessed.
yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that was another. I mean, obviously, that the religious aspect of it is very much at the core of the story. So I had that pretty much from the beginning, and I knew there was going to be a priest character that was more or less like the second or to third main character of the story. Um, and I wanted it to be a pretty likable character. The church, for good reason, comes off as pretty hateable in a lot of horror literature. Um, Another book that I was thinking of while I was writing the Eliza Test was A Head Full of Ghosts,
Hmm.
which also like has not the greatest opinion of the church in that book, and I share a lot of those opinions. Um, and But I wanted this character to be kind of redemptive for that um, for that audience that might like constantly be barraged by books that just kind of hate on the church.
I liked him. I felt like he was still like relatable because I'm just like, I get it, my guy, but I'm also just like, okay, we couldn't have found one that had a little bit more faith involved because this is not going to go well. Like I'm like, no, no, this is not good, not good.
Yeah. And that was another thing that I was interested in exploring is like how technology and faith are and science and faith really are kind of at odds with each other a lot of times, and then people that have rational mindsets from faith backgrounds still trying to kind of come to terms with things that they know to be true, as well as the things that they believe or want to believe to be true, and how those things kind of meld or sometimes don't work together at all.
I just loved how like they were all kind of arguing about it. I don't want to use the word argue, bickering, I guess. I don't know. They had at odds with it because the scientists were like, well, it's enough that the AI basically knows that you're a priest and she knows how the what's the word ritual works, all this stuff. And then I'm just like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. I was like, even on the off chance, it's just crazy. I loved it. It was
Thank
so
you.
cool.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Before you hopped on, we were talking about the cover a little bit.
Yeah.
Absolutely love the finished, updated cover that you got.
Yeah. I with Susan Roddy, I might be mispronouncing her name. I'm terribly sorry if I am. She is the in-house designer for Water Tower Hill Publishing, who put out the Eliza Test, and she's incredibly talented. If you go on their website and just scroll through their covers, you're not gonna find a cover that's not stunning. Just very very good. As far as like what I wanted from the cover, about 2/3 of the way through writing the book, I realized that I was writing at least a book with elements of really pulpy science fiction. Um, and I was just like, "Man, you know what there's not enough of, like, in modern book covers is, like, that old school, like, Robert Heinlein, style, like, 50s, 60s, science fiction covers where it's just, like, there's elements in the cover that have nothing to do with the book necessarily. It looks like they're on, like, kind of like a space station, but
Mhm.
I loved it.
Oh,
I
that was
loved
so
that whole
good.
thing. Like,
so
give me
I
a book about sci-fi with a dolphin on it that makes no sense.
yeah, yeah. And so I found like 5 book covers from that era, and I was just like, "This is the vibe I'm going for. I want Eliza to be the central focus of the cover. Other than that, do your magic." And I like I wish I had a copy of the hardcover on me because there is a back cover image that just is absolutely incredible. Is it on that digital? I don't know. Um, but yeah, Susan just did an absolutely stunning job with the cover, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, I think it fit the book absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Unhinged. I like
Yeah.
that one cool. I it definitely I unhinged is kind of the way that I like to write. I think
Mhm.
it kind of for certain writers that are pantsers like myself, I think that kinda comes with the territory. Like, there's just so much potential for the book to just completely go off the rails in, like, a good way.
Right.
Um, and
It's a little digitized, but here's the wrap.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Like,
that
this is so
That's
freaking good, I
amazing.
can't even deal with
yeah.
it.
That back image is incredible. I'm so happy with how the book turned out. But yeah, that I mean, the last 2 books that I've put out now have, like, at least in the last third of the book have gone just kind of go completely off the rails.
I'm here
Um,
Yes.
for it. I'm here for it. I
Yeah.
just
I don't know. I feel like, the world is in its own version of chaos right now. It
Mhm.
has been for, like, most of my adult life, it feels like. So I don't know. I guess I'm mm, the example of art imitating life, and it's like everything feels unstable, so my art and my books are probably gonna be a little unstable as well.
has to be
Yeah.
kind of therapeutic though, kind of purging it out as you go, or at least it feels like it would be for me.
Red Hill especially was therapeutic. Um, I've talked to Joel, I believe, about this book a little bit more, but that book I wrote while my wife was pregnant with our first daughter, um, and I was scared. I was just scared to be a parent, and so I just kind of like these are all the irrational, horrible things that could happen after I have a kid, along with the very rational things that you should be a little nervous and scared about with raising a child, um, and what's right about it. And so that book especially was cathartic. The Eliza Test, again, up for interpretation. I guess it was cathartic in a way to kind of get my feelings of AI onto the page. But I don't know if I feel very hopeful about the direction that AI is going. Um, just it just like there's so many great things that it could be utilized for, and nobody seems
They're
interested.
just using it for the worst things
Yeah,
ever. Like, don't use it for the fun stuff.
yeah,
Use it for the crap nobody wants to do. That's the whole point of being human, isn't it? Like making these inventions to where we don't have to mow our yard. Like
yeah,
you used to have to mow your yard with literally some blades that just spun because you pushed it. Now we got riding lawnmowers. Like that's the kind of stuff I'm here for.
yeah.
Just AI to mow my yard.
Yeah, there's so many things that we could be innovating on, and people just seem to want to it's not even like I mean, there is the frustration of, like of like it impeding on my personal goals and making those things difficult. But it's much more frustrating to just be like, hey, you guys could like be using this to like cut down on the research time that it could be used that you guys could be using to cure cancer or like, you know, anything like that. And it just like,
It's like this huge wide net, and if they had this huge wide net and made it smaller, they could use it to find all this crap out that we don't have time to think about, or maybe that our brain isn't capable of getting there yet, but we have half the equation, but instead we're just using it to do dumb things that hurt others.
yeah, yeah.
My feelings apparently.
The the human race has an impressive capacity to go around its ass to hurt each other. It's impressive.
And it almost seems just with like reports have come in that AI is teaching itself at this point, and we might have missed that starting point on utilizing it for good things like researching cancer, because
getting it the right information. Now it's just a bunch of crap from Reddit.
Yeah. Right. And so it's like, I don't know if I would trust the research that it does anymore.
Now instead
of this teenager that does not care, by teenager I mean AI, and has learned all this bad information, is never going to listen to its parent again.
And guess what? There's not a room that you can send it to. You don't get to.
Not in this case.
You don't get to punish this teenager. This teenager actually just gets to kick your ass. I mean, it's. I try not to get down in the dumps about it. And like I'm a person that does try their best to hold on to whatever hope I can find. And I've got 2 daughters at this point, and I can't spend too much time bemoaning what has not actually happened yet, and have hope and make efforts to make a better future.
Right now, still have you guys that are writing the actual stories, coming up with your own ideas, and people that are actually drawing their covers. So that's more than I can ask for right now. As long as that's still happening, still what we got.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like we're sitting around a campfire telling old stories or something, but I have a question. So I know that you said you had to research on this, and you're usually one that doesn't do too much of that. Other than that, what do you think was like the hardest part of writing Eliza, or the Eliza test for you? Like the hardest chunk, maybe?
Probably.
If there was one. I know you said it was.
Probably the religious element of it was difficult to write, because so full disclosure, I am a person of faith. That faith is really, really shook quite often. The modern world makes it very difficult to hold out that kind of faith. So coming to terms with some of the more upsetting aspects of my belief system was difficult at times. It's really difficult to see how the church in like a grand scale thing has failed people in so many ways. To write about that it wasn't fun necessarily. So yeah, I would say that's probably the most difficult element, other than the research into the AI.
I don't want to say that I enjoyed hearing you say that part, but it makes sense because I like Christian horror. I used to read a ton of Christian horror writers, and the ones that I really, really, really liked their stories, it was just something that like hit for me, was the ones where the book was about the main character or somebody having a crisis and having to come to terms with it. Yeah. And one of my favorite books is actually The Visitation by Frank Peretti, and the book's a bazillion years old, so I'm going to say it anyway. Like, it ends on a good note. Like, he does rectify everything, and, like, it's just one of those wonderful things. But, like, I don't know. Just hearing that and then knowing after I read your story, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It just makes your book so much, like, another level, I guess, for me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's not like necessarily in vogue right now to admit to being a person with some sort of faith background. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's an important part of who I am as a
Faith
person.
isn't bad. It's just what you do with it that makes
That
it.
Mhm.
thank you. That is the truth right there. And unfortunately, there's just so many people doing so many bad things with faith. Um, and so, yeah, I think that's probably the most difficult part for me to write.
I think you did a great job, clearly.
Yeah.
But
Thank
Yeah.
you. Writing about a person in a crisis of faith while being in a constant crisis of faith actually it ends up ringing true a little bit, I guess.
Sure. How long did the writing process for this one take?
Cool. I wrote it so long ago. Usually I try to keep first drafts in about a 3 to 4 month period at the most. I think page wise, this is the longest book that I've written so far. Um, so it was probably on the longer side. It probably took me about 4 months to get the first draft out. Um, I'm a pretty faithful writer when I'm doing it. It's every day,
Mhm.
every morning. I'm currently um, trying to readjust a household to having a new infant, so there hasn't been a ton of writing at the moment. But when I feel the story is good and and it's
and
speaking to
stuff.
me, yeah, I'm just yeah, I gotta get it out. And when I'm not writing, I'm usually thinking about it.
Sure.
Yeah, which I'm sure drives my family and my coworkers and friends crazy when I'm just like sitting there and it's just like, "Hey, did you read that report that we're supposed to be going over in this meeting?" I'm like, what about robots? What do you guys think about robots? Oh,
Mhm.
they're great, but we have a meeting that we need to get to.
But what if the meeting was about robots?
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
You said that this one was a pretty big rewrite. Was there any major thing that you left out that you wish you could have kept?
Ooh.
Like that I cut?
Right.
Ooh, I am,
Vivid
I
scene.
I'm not a huge cutter. I cut for, like, grammar and
Mhm.
I cut fat off of sentences, but content-wise, I'm not big on removing things. Um,
Nice.
yeah, that said, I was saying that the biggest rewrite that I've ever done is for my current book that I'm trying to get to a specific publisher's specifications. Um, but that one, I'm having to cut a pretty decent amount of content out of, and it feels weird. Feels
Yeah.
really weird. I think it was Faulkner that talked about killing your darlings,
Mhm.
and it's true. It's upsetting.
That's
But
hard. Yeah.
sometimes you just gotta look them in the eye with a smile and say, "Adios. I loved you, but it's time to go."
Well, and there's something to, you can always save it for later, rewrite it a little
Extended
bit,
cut.
and work it into something else.
Yeah, I mean, there's always I've definitely heard of people writing books that based off of stuff that they had to cut out of a completely different story.
Mhm.
And who knows, maybe that's the start of me writing, like, my own version of King's Castle Rock, who knows?
Ooh.
Actually, I see steam heat in the background there. Um, yeah, that kind of is, like, the first book in, like, a somewhat interconnected world. Um,
Ooh.
That's
yeah,
really cool.
right now, Water Tower Hill is slated to republish that. That particular version is out of print. But there is kind of a loose set of novellas, that 5 novellas that are kind of all, placed in the same kind of universe. Right.
I love stuff like that. Like, I'm a
Mm.
sucker. One of my favorite books is Goblin by Josh Malerman, with all the little novellas in the town.
Yeah.
I eat stuff like that up. I'm like, yeah, I just read about this dude in the last story. You know,
Malerman, like, I have a hard time referring to my stuff, my writing as art, but that guy is an artist, an
Mhm.
absolute artist. Um, Gosh, incidents around the house scared the absolute hell out of me.
Mhm.
What a
that
book.
was the first book. If I'm not mistaken, it was either that or Bird Box that my best friend read, and she's been hooked ever since. She's like, "This is the most crazy thing ever," and I'm like, "I've been telling you."
Lucky for your friend, he's also insanely prolific. He seems to just crank them out constantly.
Just the craziest stuff just keeps coming out. I'm obsessed, of course.
Let's see. A little bit about you, your history. When did you start writing, and what initial books were kind of inspiring you when you were younger?
Oh man, I'm a huge King nut. I read Salem's Lot when I was like 12, I think. Um, and the scene in that book. I always refer to this as like the moment that I became like a horror writer or destined to be a horror writer. I
Mhm.
read the scene in Salem's Lot where the kid's friend is scratching at his window, and he's on the second floor of his home. Um, I spent about a month after reading that. I lived on the second floor of my family home,
Oh,
right, and I slept right next to the window, and I literally just, like, curled over and slept on
Oh
my side
no.
facing the window for a good couple of months after reading that, but I was completely obsessed with it. I was just like,
Mhm.
"What what do I need to do to strike that sort of emotion or fear or whatever, into readers by doing something similar?" Um so yeah, I know that's like the least creative answer as far as like who inspired me.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yes.
Stephen King was the initial inspiration, and then I would say like as I've begun writing more and more, the author that I find myself just thinking about as I'm writing and like really like not necessarily trying to emulate, but I just naturally end up writing, especially endings like his books, is Tremblay. Like
Mhm.
I love, and I know that this is divisive and might like chase people off of even reading my books, but I love how ambiguous Paul Tremblay's writing is, and
no, absolutely. Like,
Yep.
I tell people all the time, I do not need you to tell me what happens at the end of the
hmm,
book, as long as you wrote the story good enough to where I can come up with my own. Just
yeah,
make
Mhm.
it happen.
and like that's exactly how I feel. Like I'm not writing, and this is gonna sound so pretentious. Uh, I'm not writing books for you know, I'm not writing books for my daughters, like a 2-year-old and an infant. I'm writing books for grown-ups that I want them to think about, and
Mhm.
I don't wanna be spoon-fed, uh, a story that tells me exactly how I'm supposed to feel about it. Even, like, King, who, like, usually, like, he gets a lot of crap for his endings, but they're usually pretty neatly tied up. I
Yeah.
think that one of his best endings is Pet Sematary, which does kind of have like a drop off the cliff, even though you kind of know where it's headed. He doesn't like give you note for note what happens after that ending, and I think it's awesome.
Mhm.
And like I like reading a book that gives me some room to generate my own picture of what's going on after the final page is done. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, Red Hill Paradise and the Eliza test both have had me thinking for weeks after reading them. Just,
yeah,
man, this is living rent free in my head now.
yeah, and
Yes.
like I said, it's divisive. I don't get a ton of like really bad reviews. I get some like average reviews, but the ones that are negative, like ones or twos, you can usually click into those, and they'll have a note about how there wasn't enough at the end. He just stopped telling the story. And like, in my mind, like I've told the story that I need to tell, and if you need to think about it more after it's done, then I feel like I accomplished what I was going for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We Used to Live Here is one of those books that has a very ending, and I'm obsessed with it. Like have you seen the TV show Castle Rock?
I watched the first season and then some of the second season. I thought it was cool. I wish they would have kept with it.
So did I. If you ever end up reading We Used to Live Here, then think about the first season of Castle Rock.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, no, it pissed so many people off, and I'm like, why? There's so many options. With like, there's at least 2 big ones that could have been. Where were you the rest of the book?
Yeah, and I haven't read that book yet. But just the premise alone, that's the other thing. Like, I'm thinking about premise a lot of times. Like, if you give me a good setup and like build a pretty, fleshed out story from there, but then like you get to there's like an ear missing. I'm smart enough, and
I can fill it in.
assume most of my readers are intelligent enough to kind of fill in whatever idea of that ear should be. That's a really weird metaphor. But,
I like it.
No,
yeah.
It definitely makes sense. It's just crazy some days. And books that I see with reviews like, hey, you didn't finish this or something like that, I'm like, okay, I gotta go read and see what.
Oh yeah, I mean, you just bumped We Used to Live Here way up my TBR because of that.
Literally, like, there were so many 1 and 2 star reviews. I was like, I need to see why this book pissed you off immediately.
Yep.
And then I sat down in my kitchen and didn't move for 3 hours and read it all.
That was a very good one. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like, in both the books that I have read of yours, I'm just like, okay, I thought it was wrapped up nicely, even though you literally didn't say this is exactly what happened.
Yeah. I mean, if you ever get to Steamy, it just a heads up. There's a little more of a concrete ending, but there's still some ambiguity there. I think it's impossible for me not to have at least a hint of that in pretty much everything that I write. And I think it's fun to write like that, and I also think it's kind of funny. I think it's funny to like guide people, and it's like, come this way. All right, here's the door. It's your choice to walk through it, and whatever you see.
Very Dark Tower of you, by the way.
I've only ever read The Gunslinger.
Oh,
which
especially after making that statement.
I know. Here's the thing. I love horror. I'm not a big fantasy guy, and I think I have the choosing of the 3 up here on my desk. I can't find it right now, but it's been on my TBR for forever.
It's funny that you say that, because Joel and I just talked about this with Jans, and Joel has only read them once. And I've read them way more than once, by the way, but I didn't actually start reading them until about 5 years ago, because I was afraid that I wouldn't like them. Because I'm like, I love everything Stephen King. I cannot read fantasy and then not look at him the same way, because I'm not a big fantasy person either.
All right, well, that's encouraging to me, because that's one of my big issues. The other one is like, I'm a really slow reader. I maybe read like 40 books a year, maybe 50.
I mean, you're also writing and you have kids. So.
It gets difficult. So like the idea of committing to a seven book series is it's a tall order. I'll
daunting.
Yeah.
I also have commitment issues when it comes to series, so I don't do that either. I haven't read Odd Thomas, the Dean Koontz. I haven't, because there's just so many, and I guess you either pick the Dark Tower or you pick Odd Thomas.
Tell you what I need to do is just like, I set my like Goodreads goals every year. It's innocuous and it doesn't really matter, but I do it just as something to do. What I need to do is just set my goal at 7 next year, and then just read the Dark Tower series.
What's
I don't
funny
know
is
if
you're
you.
gonna do this, and for some reason this is gonna go viral. And you're just
I don't know if you're big on the audiobooks, but the audiobooks for the Dark Tower series are very, very well done.
Yeah.
Frank Muller does the first handful at least, and
Nice.
he is just spot on with King's voice.
I'm definitely so. I am not going to get into this argument. I do believe that listening to books is reading. You're reading a book if you listen to it. I'm not that guy, but I don't count them to my Goodreads just as like
Sure.
a push to make sure that I'm still reading um, physical or digital books.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's more of a writer thing for me. I don't want to rely on audiobooks because I think it's really important for writers to actually read words off the page. I still love audiobooks though. I'm listening to Small Town Horror right now, and it's
That's a good one.
so good. I like it's awesome to see an author that is like just really, really damn good at what they do, and they don't need to reinvent the wheel. They're just
Mhm.
telling a good story, and I feel like that's what Malfi is doing with Small Town Horror, and I'm loving it.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
one of my
started reading
favorites by his.
this year, I think, or was it last half of last year? I can't remember. It's not been too long, but I've just been eating his books up. They're just so good. I'm like, where have you been?
Got
Apparently,
this
not in front of me.
got this special edition of Sing
Oh.
here with the
Ooh.
yeah.
Oh, I have a very small.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I got did you get that from Abominable?
Mhm. I
Nice.
didn't get this one from Abominable though. I got this one from I don't remember, probably Box A, knowing me.
Did
I
you
ended
get
up with this.
did you get the Buffalo Hunter from Abominable?
No, I did not.
I got
That was in their
Black
last
Crow.
box, and it
Oh, is that the one that they just did?
yeah.
Okay, then it hasn't been delivered yet.
Okay. It's got a beautiful painting on the end pages as well. I'm reading that right now too. I'm like 120 pages in, and it's like, what if
His
what if Cormac McCarthy decided to turn Blood Meridian into a vampire story?
Mhm.
It's so good.
I have not, and I don't even know. Like, I haven't read an author like Stephen Graham Jones like
No.
since I discovered Harry Turtledove. I feel like I don't know. There's just something about his writing that is just so gripping. Like it literally reaches out and it's like you're reading this book. Here you go. Like and it's insane. I don't know. It's just so. And listening to him speak is puts you in a trance.
He's just insanely unique. I love it.
One question I asked Jonathan Jans in our last interview: if your book was a song, what would it be?
This is like such my favorite question.
Maybe Tomo Arigato, Mr. Roboto. Geez. I like mostly listen to punk, like old school 70s punk.
Okay.
So I don't know. I feel like Tomo Arigato, Mr. Roboto is a great answer. We just got to change it to Mrs. Roboto.
There you
And
go.
nailed it. I'm gonna stick with that.
I'm never gonna think of anything else again. So
Yep.
I hope I didn't ruin the book for you.
no.
So what
Use a little laughter.
do you listen to music while you write then?
I used to, and then I realized that if I listen to music when I write, which is usually 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, I will have a child walking into my office telling me that it's time to stop writing. So
Mhm.
I am usually writing in dead silence. Also, I'm like very easily distracted when I'm writing. Like if you can see my desk, it's like in a corner. There's a window over my shoulder, but it's not like in my peripheral vision.
Sure.
I try to eliminate as much as I possibly can. So, if I did listen to music, it would probably just end up being like me, just like, oh, this song rules. I'm not gonna actually write for the next 5 minutes.
I
And
can't
then,
even think in silence.
really, yeah.
Like, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. I also can't write. I don't write books. I write reviews. I can't write reviews to music. I can't work to music. I will literally listen to an audiobook, and it's usually a Joe Hill one, so his voice is running in the background, or Bob's Burgers, just as a background thing. I cannot do anything in silence. I can't even read in silence.
Really?
Man.
You know, when we were doing those reading sprints or whatever, and we had to read, I had an earbud in, just listening to TV in the background while I was reading. Like, I do that when I read regularly as well.
Yeah, I get far too distracted.
That's like the only time though that I have to have it be pretty quiet. At my 9 to 5 is pretty easy work, pretty monotonous stuff. So I usually am just listening to a podcast or. Actually, I try not to listen to books because I find that if I'm listening to books while I'm occupied with anything other than like driving or walking, I will lose track of the plot. Usually podcasts, and I'll listen to the same episode a couple times so I get everything.
I listened to Pseudopod, where they do the little short stories or whatever.
Oh, nice, yeah.
It doesn't matter if I go and listen to the same one 74 times. But yeah, no, definitely. Okay, here's my question.
Sure.
What is, and you can pick a couple because I hate to put anybody in a box, what are your favorite horror books? Like, if you had to pick across time that you have read 3 of them.
3 of them. Okay, I'm going to go Misery by King. Just because it's so much more, like, I love the movie, but there's something that's lost in translation there, that the book just is really about writing. Like, it is about writing and how that is a spit in the eye of hopelessness. I think it's like, of course, it's like a great thriller, I think there's something really kind of beautiful to be said in that book too. Especially like the element of him like constantly losing letters off of his typewriter that he's using. I think it's an incredible book. I'm gonna go Cabin at the End of the World by Tremblay. I read that as I literally have a picture of me in the hospital room after my baby was born, reading that book with a newborn is a pretty harrowing experience. That book actually had an emotional impact on me, which I'm not sure that there are a ton of books necessarily that can they'll actually pull emotions out of me, but to have a deep impact and just be like, oh, I need to, as a result of reading this book, I know that I need to hold this child closer and cherish this relationship more than anything in the world.
That book was just a chest punch. I don't even have kids in that book. I was like,
yeah. Oh. I saw him at AuthorCon 2 years ago in Williamsburg, and I told him that I loved the ending, and I thought it was one of the most beautiful things that I've ever read. And he laughed and he said he really appreciated that because most of his reviewers how much they hate the ending of that book.
That book was actually the book that made me a fan of his writing.
Let's go the opposite end of the spectrum and just say Books of Blood. just like this visceral, gory, bloody horror that like is really disturbing. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in my top 3. I love those stories. They're so good.
It's a good one.
Do you have any advice for new authors or people trying to get into the craft?
Yeah, I got a couple pieces of advice. This is gonna sound like I'm just like like stumper for Stephen King, but this is the truth. If you are just starting, go buy a copy of On Writing, a memoir of the craft. It is an incredible book. If you're a Stephen King fan and you're not interested in writing, it's still worth reading because it's very autobiographical. But it will give you tools that you will use for the rest of your life, and it will encourage you. It will make you feel like you are doing the right thing and that you're making progress as a writer. Um, and the other things that I'll say are instructions from that book. One of them is remain consistent with your writing, show up every day, um, preferably at the same time every day, and the magic will start to reveal itself. You don't have to go digging for it, you just need to show up. And read books, read everything that you can get your hand on. I think in the horror world, it is very easy to bury yourself in that genre. Read other books, read romance books, read sci-fi, read contemporary dramas. Just read everything because all of that is going to show you what you should and shouldn't do with your own writing.
And those
Love
are
it.
just more elements to put into your horror book or whatever you're writing, because horror just isn't horror. There's
Yeah.
romance, there's thriller, there's mystery in it, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the first two books that I mentioned in my 3 favorites especially are, like, those definitely pull from elements of other genres. The Books of Blood do too, but the I think Clive Barker's goal with those stories was to terrify, and he did a really damn fine job.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's about all the questions I have. Alexis, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. You pretty much knocked it out of the park with the questions on this one.
Oh, well, thank you. This was a lot of fun, Caleb. Where can people find you?
They can check out my website. It's calebjonesauthor.com. And I'm under my name, Caleb Jones, on Facebook. You might have some hard times finding me because there's about 1 million of us. And I've
I
not
will
done.
link all of your websites into the description of the video.
Oh, wonderful. And then Caleb_Jones_author on Instagram and TikTok.
All right. Well, be sure to go and follow Caleb Jones. Pick up a copy of the Eliza Test. It is just so good. Definitely one of my favorites of the year so far.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to us about this book. Like, I know I'm always excited for every interview, but I was super excited for this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was awesome to be here. I really believe in this book, and it's fun to talk about.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much.